Hi, I'm Devin Roberts, this is Lore Archive, and these are my Why You Should Read spoiler-free series reviews. Today I'm going to be breaking down a little bit of information about the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan and later by Brandon Sanderson. Talking a little bit about why you should read the series, where some of the highlights of it, some of the negatives that may make it hard to get into, and my suggestions for people trying to get into this series. So the Wheel of Time begins in the Two Rivers with our main character, Randall Thor. He is walking with his dad, Tam, down a path one day, and he senses a dark presence behind him. He looks behind him, and there's a dark rider that's following him. He's scared, can't figure out who or what the rider is. He goes to tell his dad about it, but when he looks back, the rider is gone. This gets him very scared, very freaked out. He goes into his village, the Two Rivers, asks his friends, Matt and Perrin, if they've seen something similar, and it turns out they have. These three friends have seen dark figures following them around town for about a day now. They start trying to tell adults who don't really believe them, but there are so many coincidences going on with three people seeing it, all kinds of things of that nature, that they begin to start asking around town different people about what they've seen. There's strangers in town that no one really knows. This is a very small village. So that's different than what the people in the Two Rivers are used to. They just go to ask these people if they know anything about these dark riders. When we find these strangers, we actually find out that they are Aes Sedai and Warder, a female magic user and her protector companion. We kind of get a little bit of context to that they're here on a secret mission, but not much more about it. The night kind of goes still and we move on. That same night, a massive attack comes from an army of what's called Trollocs in this world. This is kind of a half-man, half-beast monster. A man with tusks, or maybe a beak, or goat horns, something of that nature. And these monsters, completely feral, attack the Two Rivers, slaughtering people left and right. Randall Thor, our main character, is in his home when this happens. His dad, Tam, digs under their bed and pulls out a heron-marked sword, a master swordsman's blade, and begins to fight off the Trollocs. Rand is attacked by a Trolloc, almost killed, but winds up making it alive to the Two Rivers after the battle. He meets up with the Aes Sedai and her warder, and find out that the Trollocs were actually after the three of them. That's why these dark men have been following them. They are something called ta'veren. They are woven into the pattern of the Wheel of Time. They are going to play a massive effect on the fight that the light side of the world has against the dark one, the two major opposing forces within this world. So they have to go with her to Tar Valon, the White Tower, the head of the Aes Sedai seat in the nation, so that they can figure out what's going on with them and help them overcome these attacks and what's to come. So most of them are pretty apprehensive. These three boys, they're farm kids. They don't want to go on this adventure with this magical witch lady. They just want to stay and herd sheep in their Two Rivers. But she mentions to them that if they stay here, more attacks will come, their family and their village will be in danger, so begrudgingly, they decide to go with her. And the Wheel of Time is the story of these kids, Matt, Perrin, and Rand, growing up to become ta'veren, to become major aspects of the pattern, to become major players in the battle against the Dark One, and how it affects each of the three of them. The Wheel of Time, guys, is a 15-book series, I believe, if you include the prequel. They are all individually massive. They are absolutely massive books to read, guys. This series is a commitment. That's what you have to know going in. I've read these books at full speed. It took me about half a year to get through the series. With that being said, it's one of the most well-crafted series of all time. It's slow at points. It's absolutely slow at points. If you have to have fast-paced action to enjoy your books, this is not the place for you. There's a lot of description of clothing and cultures and buildings and things that aren't always necessarily action-packed. Sometimes whole books with very few action scenes. But the overarching 15-book story is absolutely fantastic. The lore and world building and background are something better than I've seen in absolutely any other American fantasy fiction work. And Robert Jordan has absolutely laid the foundation that's allowed other fantasy authors like Brandon Sanderson and like George R.R. Martin and other big names to actually emerge, create their styles, and move forward in the same way that Tolkien has in the past. This version of American fantasy is one of my favorites now that I've got through a serious series that did it so well. I believe everyone should pick this up as a staple of the fantasy genre. Just make sure you're in for the commitment that's going to be to actually read this. Thank you so much for tuning in to hear a little bit about the series. There is 15 books worth of information about what happens, so I don't want to spoil anyone on kind of the overarching story. We're trying to find out who the Dragon Reborn is. We want to know who of the 3 children is the Dragon Reborn who will fight the Dark One and hopefully defeat him for good. That is the goal of our adventure. That is the goal of our story. That's as much information as I'm going to give you, as you should probably go read and find out for yourself. But guys, I'm Devin Roberts. This is Lore Archive. I appreciate you tuning in to this Why You Should Read. Hope you pick it up and tune in for more. Peace.